What's going on? I'm Scott from Konig, and welcome to another episode of the Behind the Wheel podcast. You know, that thing we do every Wednesday. I'm Scott from Konig. Did I cover that already? I'm not sure. Jared from Konig. We're here. We're right in between that happy medium of technical difficulty, and we think we have it figured out. But you know, that's par for the course. Yeah, pretty much.
I would say so.
Right. So today's guest is a good one, man. I'll tell you. I feel like he should be introducing us. But anyhow, everybody that we have on our channel is going to know of him. So we have Caleb. I don't want to give his last name. I don't know if that's a public thing, but Gingium is the better way of putting it. So if you have been under a rock, Gingium's channel is super cool. I have been following along probably for the past 4 or 5 years, and I think he's been doing it a lot longer than that. So I've seen him do some of the coolest builds in such, I want to say, humble ways, and I think we'll get into that in just in a minute. So let's get Caleb in here, and Caleb, what's happening?
Hello. Thank you for all the kind words.
Well, listen, they're not poetic, they're not elegant, but you know, there was good intent behind them, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
So first off, for people that are super familiar with your channel, because I think that that's going to be the majority of the people that are going to see this podcast, how has it been with the move? You know, you made a big move to go from Chicago area, I think that's fair, toward Atlanta.
Yeah. I mean, it's the funny saying where I say I live in Chicago, but I live an hour away. And I say I live in Atlanta, but I live an hour away from Atlanta.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's been rough in some ways. Obviously, due to COVID and all sorts of stuff, the housing market and like the real estate market is crazy right now.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to find a place to work, but I'm lucky that I do have a house to work at, and we've been making it happen. I've been doing some new projects down here. Obviously, in Chicago, I had a big full shop that had fabrication stuff, and I was doing a little bit more fabrication and cool stuff like that. But now we're kind of grassroots, working on cars, fixing them up, and it's been fun.
That has to be well, no, I'm not going to say it has to be. It is a huge change to come. First off, you moved your personal life, right? So
Right.
That's a big change.
Yeah.
But then moving that shop. Now, listen, I have access to shops, a lot of shops, and that's where I've done a lot of the bulk of my builds and different things. But for me, like, I have a lift in my house. So I don't have a big garage. I don't have this whatever, but I do have, I have TIG welders and MIG welders and belt sanders and, all the stuff that you would need to do some decent. Well,
I've seen some of the work you do. You're getting pretty good, Scott.
Thanks, man. But so what I'm saying is I come from this place of having the tools. If you would just take what I have away from me and ask me to do some builds, I would feel really naked, handicapped. You know what I mean?
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so how has that been for you when your whole channel is built off of your builds?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly been stressful because, I mean, you explained it very well. When we got down here, I couldn't find a shop while I was living in Chicago.
Yeah.
Obviously we were trying to find a place before we moved. But it's always hard to find something online. You're trying to set up a time for Hunter to go look at it, a friend of mine who lived in the area. It's a lot of work. So I was hoping once we got down here, it would be easier to find something in person now that we were actually down here. And then, a month turned into 2 months, turned into 3 months. And now we're almost half a year in here with really still no leads. I do have a potential lead, but yeah, so it's, yeah, I mean, yeah, you explained it very well. It's kind of feels naked, it took an adjustment, trying to figure out what would work, what I could do without having all those tools in the shop kind of thing.
It's
And I was just going to say, and this is probably not really a rhetorical question, but maybe a question that, you already know the answer to, which is to say that, like, you don't have enough property at your current place to just sort of build a shop, right?
Yeah, and I don't own this house, so we're just renting it. And I might buy a little carport at least because the trees down here are brutal. My poor car. But yeah, nothing, not enough space to build a shop or anything.
Well, and it's crazy because Caleb, it's not like just for people that are out there that because I don't think this is. I think this is way more behind the scenes and probably is led on in a lot of your stuff. Everybody's probably familiar with Hunter from S3 that also has been pretty good friends with you for a long time and has helped that transition because you moved into that area. But he's got a full deck of cards working for him with this whole real estate thing because Jonathan Woolley, who's S3, who is one of the S3 magazine co-founders, editors, whatever, and personal friend of ours. His wife owns a real estate company, so she's been going. She was the one that probably got you the house rental, right?
Yes, and she got it for us 2 days before we moved down here.
Yep. And she's super talented. This is not somebody that's new to the industry. She's been doing this for well over 15 years, and she's award-winning realtor. She's super good.
Wow.
So for her in her backyard to have such an issue finding something that should be simple, right? It just shows you what the market is just upside down.
Yeah. I mean, things get posted on Facebook Marketplace and they're gone in an hour. Obviously, that's not the best place to look, but
yeah,
just one example.
Right. Desperate times.
Resorted to.
Yeah, desperate times call
Right.
for desperate investors,
Yeah.
So you moved down there, and so now how are you transitioning your content, your builds? I mean, because look, we're not the one thing I don't think we have to beat around the bushes, and I don't think you do either. While you enjoy doing this, and I think what's amazing about your channel is that when you do your builds, they are Gingium builds. They're not the TJ Hunt style. They're not going to be other YouTube style. You stay in your own lane, and I would say the best thing for me, being a guy that likes to fabricate, is watching another guy that likes to fabricate.
Mm-hmm.
You get to, I mean, from the time that you did your bus RV build, right?
Right.
You really started to get heavier and heavier and heavier into fab work, and I would say probably one of the bigger undertakings you did fab work wise with geometry and stuff was probably the drift truck build, right?
I mean, the drift truck build is pretty easy compared to the rally, but
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, both of them were definitely requiring some heavy amount of fabrication. I mean, it was just a natural evolution of I wanted to do things, more unique stuff because that's kind of my thing. I like to do something unique, and paying someone to fabricate a chassis to fit a Subaru motor and a Miata is very expensive. So I'll just learn how to do it myself.
Right. And I think for people, they don't necessarily understand, there is just as much pride and triumph in learning the new skill as there is in applying the new skill to a build and coming out with a build.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think, going back to this, because like I said, the one thing we've never shied away, while you capture your passion, you're still by occupation, I don't want to say a YouTuber, but you know what I mean, a car builder that is able to express himself by using YouTube to constantly put some money back in the pit to continue to do more projects.
Yeah.
How have you transitioned your content, even on a temporary scale, not having a shop, not having the fab stuff that you want? What has been your thinking? How have you been planning that out?
Yeah, well, so, I mean, it really feels like I've kind of gone back to, the older days of my channel. Because this is the kind of stuff I started with, is, living at my mom's house, bolting on parts to my Miata kind of thing. So, I've been, going back to, bolting stuff on cars, but still trying to do it to something a little bit more unique, still trying to make a big transformation in the car. Because I don't think I consistently did that at my mom's house back in the day. Um, but so yeah, I mean, it just feels kind of like I have experience doing what I'm doing right now here in Georgia without having to shop. So I guess I'm lucky in that way. But yeah, I mean, mhm.
You moved into a good area though. At least you moved down to a place where you have some good contacts. I mean, Wooly has a lot of contacts to be able to get some stuff if you really needed it. Hunter has developed a lot of those contacts as he's kind of moved from Alabama out to Georgia. So you have a good little support system, I think, that's there. So you decide not too long ago that you're going to fly somewhere and pick up the Eclipse.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I was playing the waiting game, hoping I would find a shop, and eventually I was like, all right, I can't do this anymore. I
Right.
can't wait around for something to happen that isn't going to happen. And I have a lot of cars, obviously, but
Yeah.
all of them already are so far away from just bolt-on stuff that anything I want to do to them now also requires fabrication. So I couldn't do anything to those cars. So I was like, all right, I need to get something new. And I had been looking at Facebook Marketplace for a while. New, yeah, right, exactly. New to me. um, so I've been looking at Facebook Marketplace for a while, and I had always wanted an Eclipse, but I couldn't find anything that was nice. I found like a 2G Eclipse that was the naturally aspirated version that someone had strapped a turbo to, and it was like a Fast and Furious car with all that those body kits and stuff. And he was
Dangerous and
asking like
temperamental.
25. He was asking like a decent amount of money and didn't have a tune, didn't have all these things. Like it was a terrible idea. And then a week later, just completely coincidence, my friend messaged me like, "Hey, do you want to buy this Eclipse?" It was a friend of his was selling it, and he lives in St. Louis. It was a 1G Eclipse. It was a real GST. I had the 4G63. It had just supposedly, the motor had been rebuilt 10,000 miles ago. Didn't have any mechanical issues. Just needed a few suspension stuff. Little things to be able to fix it and have it running and driving nicely.
It's incredible. You are such a glutton for punishment. He went after he went after a DSM, and then when he got there, he also has a GST. So you have quite a bit of uphill battles in this build.
And wait, weren't the wheels also bent?
Yeah, that was a whole other story. So we
You can
Caleb's
see them right
yeah,
here. They've
they're
been
right there.
sitting in my office for a while.
He's like, Caleb hits me up and he's like, "Hey, I know this is really bad timing. Would there be any way you can get a set of wheels sent to where are they going, Nebraska or something?
No, it was St. Louis.
St. Louis. So
Yeah.
if we can get them sent to St. Louis, like by the end of the week," and I was like, well,
We
in
can
normal
try.
time, yes, but this isn't normal times. I don't know that they're gonna make it, and so we got him out that day, and then FedEx took him to wherever FedEx brings things that they don't want to actually get there on time, and
Oh.
whatever they do.
Right,
And
they ended up in Alaska first
no,
or something
no, no,
like
but
that, and then
but they
South
didn't get there.
Dakota.
They got there like 2 days after FedEx said they would be there, and
hmm
and I think you were just on your way. You were already on your way out.
Yeah, I had just gotten home, and then my friend sends me a picture of these at his door, and I was like, ah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's about right. So
yeah.
so all right. So I have done my fair share of fly or drive to go get cars and brave it on the way
Really?
hmm
back.
I didn't know this.
And I know I've had some good horror stories. How was the Eclipse drive back?
So yeah, this is my first time doing this,
Okay.
and I had debated heavily whether I wanted to tow it back or try to drive it back. I ended up settling on driving it back because, for one, I mean, it makes better content. And also, I sold my bus, so I didn't have anything to tow it with, so I would have had to either rent a U-Haul or it would have been way more expensive to try to tow it back. So I was like, okay. I bought all the parts, off all the parts I needed. So I talked to the owner, and he was pretty transparent with me about stuff that I needed. He needed some suspension stuff. So I bought all that. Put it in a checked bag. Flew to St. Louis. We had 3 days. Well, 2 days. We got there on, I think, a Sunday. Then we had Monday to fix the car, and then we tried to drive it back on Tuesday. So Sunday we get there. Car, I mean, it's about everything that I thought it was going to be. It was pretty ugly when we first got it. We drove it like 3 minutes from the place we picked it up to my friend's house, and sure enough, the wheel was really bent, so steering wheel was shaking. I was pulling to the right. It drove pretty bad, but the engine and the transmission felt pretty healthy. And then the next day, Monday, we put a neutral arm in it, gave an alignment, bled the brakes, put a new brake caliper on it, did an oil change, changed the ignition, kind of did all like the basic stuff. I changed as much as I possibly could to prevent as many things as I could think going wrong. The one thing I did not think would go wrong was the car would blow a head gasket. Sure enough, that's what happened.
You could have asked me. I would have told you that was going to happen.
Yeah. Anyone who owned DSM would tell me that.
Yeah.
The Monday night after we fixed it, we drove it to St. Louis to get some pictures of it. Drove there just fine. Right when we were driving it back, like right when we were pulling back to my friend's house, puked a bunch of coolant everywhere. And at the moment, we thought that the fans had just not turned on or something, and so it overheated and puked coolant. It did not go through my head that it had lifted the head and started pressurizing the coolant system.
Yeah, it's wishful thinking.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so we bled the coolant system that night, drove it around for another hour, and it was totally fine. And then so the next day, we started driving, left pretty early in the morning. And for like a good solid 3 to 4 hours, it was totally fine. I mean, driving on the highway, 75 miles an hour, drove perfectly. And then it overheated. And we pulled off to the side. We limped it to an O'Reilly's Auto Parts. We hoped that the thermostat had, just gone stuck, because we noticed the coolant gauge was kind of going all over the place and it was changing pretty rapidly. So we're like, oh, maybe it's maybe the thermostat's getting stuck.
Oh, that's a head gasket, baby.
Yeah, we didn't. It took us a while to figure that out, but
Yeah.
we replaced the thermostat, made it another 10 minutes until it overheated again. Then replaced the radiator cap. That's when it started dinging on me that it was the head gasket, because I'm like, man, this thing is boiling over really easy. Like, it's not overheating and it's puking its coolant everywhere.
Yeah.
This radiator cap might be bad. So I replaced that, and then did the exact same thing, and then we're like, okay, all right.
Yeah, so I mean, for those who know, like I was a big DSM guy for many, many, many years. So I've built countless DSMs, and it's, where they put that coolant, the coolant sensor for the gauge, it's in this upper water neck housing. And so it's the perfect transition from air coming from the engine, because it's a high point, going to the radiator. So as soon as you see that baby dance, you got a whole bunch of stuff that's happening with air, right? Like that's your first clue. So listen, I like you I've changed head gaskets on the side of the expressway.
Wow.
I drove. I picked up a car in Maryland. We're in New York, so I picked up a car in Maryland that was supposed to be so clean. So we my buddy and I, we flew down to BWI, and we took a cab to this guy's whatever. We met him. We looked at the car. The car looked clean. We did a compression test. We did as much as we could to, and then we got on the road. We had already had the car registered and stuff.
It's a 5-hour trip, 6 hour roughly, supposed to be. Maryland.
Yeah, it was right outside of Washington. It should have taken about 4.5, 5 hours, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're roughly midway through New Jersey. I think we just got through like Cherry Hill, just north of southern New Jersey, and my friend was taking the first turn, and all of a sudden we're in the right lane. He's in fifth gear, and Zzz, and I was like, what the heck is that? And then the car caught again, and I was like, the clutch just slipped? And he's like,
Uh-oh.
yeah, I think so. All of a sudden, it just like he'd be driving for a little bit, and the clutch would slip again, and I'm like, this
Oh.
is terrible.
Just cruising on the highway.
Yeah, it's just like fifth
Wow.
gear. It just I mean that clutch was fried.
Oh.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, it was like I'm like, I'm like, how does that go? He's like, anytime I give it just a little bit of gas in fifth gear, he's like, we just lose it. I was like, oh my god. So now I'm like, all right, well, let's just try to keep your foot off of it, get to the right lane. Let's limp this baby. So so we get up, we get over. I forget what we did. I think we did the outer bridge. We got over the outer bridge.
Okay.
We get onto like that 440 coming in through Staten Island.
Well, and just to give you a sense of what this entails, as you're getting closer to New York,
Yeah,
it's getting more
congested.
and
So all of a sudden, we get all the way over toward the belt.
oh right, yeah, because you're on Long Island.
Yeah, and he says to me, he's like, "Yo, I can't. This car, it won't do it." He's like, "We're done." I was like, we pull over into like this little turnout over by the water there.
Oh, like one of those emergency turn-offs?
No, the one where they have like the food trucks and people park to go running.
Okay, yeah.
So we pull in
Scenic
there.
Outlook or some
Yeah,
Oh
so
no.
we pull in there and he's like, I don't think we can make the car. So I'm like, all right, well let me take a stab at it. So now we switch over and I go to put the car in first and I can't get it into gear.
Wow.
And then second, I can't nothing I can do will put this car in gear. I'm like, man, the clutch is it's over. It's done. So he's like, what are we gonna do? I was like, well, I'm not calling a tow truck from here. So so I don't remember how we pulled this off, but I was able to get the car into first gear.
Oh no.
And I was like, all right. I'm like, well, we're gonna turn the car on. I'm like, I'm just gonna get some RPM. I'm like, and we're just gonna go until we can get I'm just gonna keep. So whatever's wrong with it, it's over. It's already there. Like there's nothing I can do about it, So we keep pushing. Finally, we get into first gear, and now the car's in first gear. I'm like, all right, we're gonna go. So we start moving, and it was fine, like first, second, and third. But the problem was, now the clutch wouldn't really work anymore.
Well, you don't say.
So now I had a rev match on the belt to try to get the car to take the next gear, so I can
Well, so you couldn't.
You kind of have like full gears, right?
Yeah, you couldn't use the clutch. So I
Yeah.
did not use the clutch for the rest of the trip home.
Well, I was gonna say, can't you do that like speed trick? Like at 16 miles an hour, you can go from first to like. Isn't there?
Well,
some
there's
sort
not
of
a speed trick, but it's rev matching, and I've done it. I've done it plenty of times before, like in racing, but like not. It's not something you daily drive with,
Well, and what happened if you got like you had to stop for stop and go traffic?
It happened. It was embarrassing. There was some profanity. I remember some fingers. We used the hazards a lot. That was the trick. The hazards. But luckily we did time it out so that it wasn't like super trafficky. It was just not great,
Mhm.
And
Your friend must have loved you.
well, no, I don't. I mean, we were both in the same situation. I mean, yeah. I
No,
mean, it
but
was.
whose car was it?
Well, I mean, I was going. It was my car, I guess, but like,
Your friend must have loved you.
oh, he didn't. We were both the. We were both into like. We all knew this was coming.
Yeah.
Like, the only difference is like with a head gasket. Hypothetically, if you can get yourself on the parts, it's annoying. You have parts and tools. You can do a head gasket. You can't really do a clutch on the side of the
'Cause
road.
the head gasket's up top. The clutch is all the way at the bottom.
Yeah, you don't really
Yeah.
need a lift for a head gasket,
Right? Yeah.
or a jack or anything like
Getting the
that.
transmission off on the side of the Belt Parkway would have been a problem. So we just like, I mean, I when we got home, it took anyhow. So it took us a solid 3 hours to go a distance that should have only taken us 45 minutes.
Oh,
Yikes.
Yeah. Anyhow, so I'm no stranger to that stuff, but it is a daunting thing when you start to realize that like this can go catastrophically wrong.
Yeah.
No resources.
Yeah. So I mean, in our situation, we had made it about halfway when it really started to overheat, like every 20 minutes. We had just made it into Chattanooga, actually. And so Hunter had a friend in Alabama that was about to drive up with a trailer and come. It was like a 3-hour drive up to Chattanooga and then drive us to Atlanta and drive home. So shout out to that guy. But we decided to give it one last try because in the last auto parts store we had bought just a bunch of coolant because we figured this is gonna keep happening.
Yeah.
So we filled it up with coolant, turned the heat full blast. Really tried to stay off the throttle, and we were able to make it from Chattanooga to Atlanta, which was like 3 hours. And it just started overheating again when we were pulling into Hunter's driveway.
Caleb, that's when you unbolt the thermostat housing, you take the thermostat, you throw it away.
Oh, we already did that.
Oh, yeah. You have no choice. You put the housing back on, you bleed the car again, and you just pray that you get, like, far enough along and you have enough coolant, right? Like, how many times did you stop for coolant?
It overheated 3 times. And then we did that last leg. So really only, 3 times.
Right.
Once we, after that last time, when we were taking it easy, we had the heat on, we had the AC on. So both the fans were always running. It also the sun had gone down. So the temperature, like the ambient temperature had dropped a lot, which I think helped. But after that, we made it all the way the 3 hours without any more issues.
So with the car, is there you've done the head gasket?
Yep.
What kind of head gasket would you use? Use a Felpro or use one of those MLS gaskets?
I used like an MLS.
So was the head warped at all?
Yeah, it was really warped.
So did you have machine shop deck it and everything?
Yep.
Yeah. So
yeah, I dropped it off the machine shop, and after I picked it up, the guy was like, "Yeah, this one was pretty bad."
Yeah,
and it had ARP studs too.
Well, so I'll tell you, in my experience, all these guys that are using like L19 studs and different things to really clamp the heads down. To me, I always felt like because I would always use like the regular ones. I never really did the L19 thing. They had just come out like right at the tail end of my DSM tenure there, but my whole fear was engines always go on the weakest link, right? So if you don't provide the opportunity for the engine to go in a place, it's going to go in another place, right? So like my whole thing was, really make the head clamp down to the point of, like it's never going to lift. And well, when you have that detonation or anything that throws a combustion pressure to 1 billion, well, it's going to come out the bottom. Like, so, but yeah, it's, I will say the Mitsu parts are pretty good. The Mitsu parts themselves are good. It's just what they use to assemble that doesn't really work out most of the time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't had any issues with the car yet. Knock on wood. I've put 1,000 miles on it now, so.
Nice. Yeah, new timing belt, new water pump, did the whole accessory thing, idler pulleys, And
a new paint job.
Yeah, which is
great.
Great.
It looks great now. We just wet sanded it and buffed it the other day, and it actually looks like an OEM paint job. It doesn't look like a Mako job.
So funny. We were just talking about a story. Right. I was telling him about a Mako experience that I had, and you had done basically the same thing. And I think that's such a big thing for people that are on a budget. The fact that if you do the prep and you bring it to a Mako and, and throw down whatever you can afford, because there's obviously varying levels there, and then you're prepared to do some work afterward, that you really can get a good budget paint job.
Yeah. I mean, I was a little disappointed with it after I just received it from Mako.
Yep.
But after wet sanding and buffing, I'm blown away. Like, I'm gonna do it again for the next car.
Yeah. Wow. And that was one of the stories I was telling Jared. Like, my friend and I, we had
So this was the making your car feel new again.
Oh, was it?
Podcast.
Yeah, I don't even remember them anymore. Anyway. But yeah, so basically we did all the prep. We brought the car there.
Well, but you said you went above and beyond because
took
the bumpers off.
Yeah, but that stuff is like not hard. We bolted it back on with like a few fasteners. You know what I mean? Like, we got there, we did as much disassembly as we could for them, just because we knew that they weren't going to. Like,
yeah, I wish I would have done some of that, but
yeah. So, and that's the thing. Like, you pay minimal. They'll do anything you want sort of. But you pay for it, and then you end up paying for a real paint job, and you might as well just go to a real paint place if you're going to get a real paint job.
Right.
Yeah. So now you said you sold your bus. The bus is gone.
Yeah, technically I traded it, but yeah.
Pretty dramatic, right?
It was the best decision I ever made.
Really? Tell me. I want to know why.
Whoa.
You know, all the stories about 6-liter Power Strokes, they're all true. Just put it that way. I had nightmares every night thinking about that thing blowing up on me.
Yeah. It is what you did with all right, we'll discount the engine from this build, but what you did with the bus I think was it ever since I saw you do that. I've seen other people do that with the bus, but ever since I saw you do that with the bus, I remember thinking like this is something I want to do at some point. I think, look, I got 2 little kids. I think it's fun to just throw them into a thing that you built and because here's the thing, you don't have to go. I mean, look, there's duct tape and there's a whole bunch of other things.
Zip ties.
There's zip ties, 200-pound rated zip. I mean, big stuff. But the fact that you could do something collectively, you and your girlfriend did it at the time, and it was a good build. And then you got to use what you built to go on a lot of these different excursions. So, do you feel like that build was a good mile marker for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was a really fun build, and it was a very enjoyable thing, and it was a great tow rig for when it worked.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll ignore the engine. I'll ignore the engine.
I understand.
It's just like it scarred me for life. But yeah, no, the interior was awesome. Like you said, building it with my girlfriend and with friends, like it was a group project kind of thing, which was also really fun. And it's pretty simple. It took a lot of work, obviously, because the bus is pretty big. So it was just kind of a lot of tedious little things, but it was really, at the end of the day, pretty easy. And I had done 2 build outs on that bus. I did the first one where I didn't really I didn't really like research, kind of plan ahead, and I just kind of threw it together, and it did not turn out as it was. It was very. Yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't good. And then I was kind of like disappointed by that, and I was always looking through Facebook and Instagram and seeing pictures of other van conversions. I'm like, man, those are way better.
Yeah.
So then when I redid it, I really took my time and made a product that I was pretty happy with once
Yeah.
it was done.
You could find all these people. All you have to do is search #vanlife, and
Yep.
you'll find basically every one of them that is now converted either a Sprinter, an old minibus, or whatever into these.
I know people that have actually made like whole businesses.
Yeah.
Now it's
And
crazy.
but I think that there's something to it, because if you think about what it was like, so many years ago, trying to get an RV, I mean, they're big dollar items.
Well, I also think about New York City rent, and I think about, maybe I'll just live in a van instead.
Right.
Yeah, it'd be way cheaper.
'Cause it's like
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
super
That
expensive.
would go over. I think you'd have to move out of New York City for that, man, because you'd have like 12 of your closest friends shooting up right next to you.
Oh god.
Yeah, they'd come in there and hang out with a Jared. Um, so on your channel, the stuff that you've done, what do you like? You've done plenty of builds at this point. Well, tell me like some of your favorite ones, or ones that you feel had some sort of sentimental value, maybe above and beyond what was captured on video.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the obvious one for sentimental factors, at least, would be my first car, because I bought that first Miata when I was still doing game videos and stuff, and I still have it. And yeah, I built it over the course of 5, 6, almost like 6 years I've owned it. So that one's super sentimental to me. My first car I ever owned, and the car that kind of made my channel. So that one, definitely gonna keep that one forever. in terms of other stuff, I mean, the Rail that one was pretty cool because it was my first real, I say real fabrication. The other ones have lots of fabrication too, but that one was a real endeavor when I first started it. And that car had seen better days when I went to do the all dry swap. It was rusty. It had spray painted it, and that one also had made my channel and had kind of let degrade a little bit. So doing the all dry swap, really putting my time and my effort into it, making it nice and unique, that felt really awesome. I mean, there's a part. Each build has its own kind of sentimental and thing that I like about them.
Yeah. So, would you say that what you're doing now, staying in that realm of kind of affordable everyday vehicles, but doing some really cool stuff to them, possibly taking them beyond, where they ever should be through some of these fab skills, is where your channel will stay? Or do you have kind of aspirations to move your channel in maybe different directions, progress differently with some of the projects?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I'll definitely evolve over time, but I definitely want to stick with the whole, taking a car and doing something that it wasn't meant to happen through fabrication. I might step up the cars instead of using $1,000 Volvos and trucks. Maybe I'll take a R32 GTR someday and do some weird cursed thing to it. But
good luck. You can't find them anywhere unless you have I don't know, an obscene amount of money.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So, I'll maybe do different cars that are more expensive, but I have no interest in ever getting a Ferrari and bolting stuff onto it, or that kind of basic stuff. Maybe for my own personal self someday, if I have a successful channel, I'll get like a Supra and make it cool or something. But no, I really enjoy taking a car that was slow and old and then doing something wacky with it.
Where do you come up with the ideas to go to your next project? Because I will say that the one thing I think I like the most about your channel is that when you introduce a new build, you're never quite sure what it's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I am always coming up with new ideas. It's just kind of, I've always, throughout my life, I've always been someone who is pretty creative and likes to just build stuff. So I always have these ideas, like, what if I put that engine in this car, but instead of putting it where it's supposed to be in the front, let's put it in the back, kind of thing.
Right.
And then I get super into that idea, and then the next week I come up with another idea, and then totally forget that last idea. And I'm like, well, let's do this instead. So, I mean, I've got a long list. I've got enough ideas to last me probably like the next 5 years of building stuff. Easy.
Which is crazy because it's like, that's the constant struggle that I have with my own life. That I have this bucket list of builds that I want to do, not necessarily to even keep them, just to do them and then move on, because I'm curious about the process that would go into doing that, what I would learn, also to be able to do something and get done with it and be like, all right, well, I know that there's not too many people that have done this thing, right?
Yeah.
So
it's rewarding.
Yeah.
I just want to go off on a slight tangent because this sort of has to do with what we're talking about. When we talked earlier about, his current projects and what he's working on, we didn't really touch on the fact that, like, supplies, the cost for supplies and everything,
Sure.
and the availability of supplies are, like, basically non-existent. So I guess I'm just curious how you think your current projects will evolve or whatnot based on the current situation with, the cost of aluminum, going through
Cost of everything, right?
Cost of everything, right? Like, does that affect your current projects and how you look at them?
Not too much, because I mean, even the rail Miata, which required a lot of steel tubing, I think it still was. I want to say it was less than 100 feet of steel tubing. So even if that goes up in price, it's really not too much of a dramatic difference. And in terms of like at least the Eclipse and the Delica that I have, I don't really plan on doing too much crazy fabrication with those, because even though I am putting all my time and effort into them, uh, they are still kind of a placeholder. So like once I get a shop, I plan on kind of selling those to deck out the shop and get the next project, which will be more of a fabrication project kind of thing.
So, do you have, man, I'll tell you that I think the hardest thing, you are in probably one of the better areas to be able to have the space in the shop. So it's crazy to me that you just can't. You can't find it.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously the market's crazy, but also a lot of people are moving to the Atlanta area, so that definitely makes it worse. I mean, I found a bunch of shops, but they're just a little bit too far for me to want to go. Like they're 2 hours away, and I don't
Right.
want to drive 2 hours each way every day. That's a little too far.
Right. Would you consider doing something, I don't want to say radical, but radical in the sense of like a barn dominium or, some place like that?
Definitely. I mean, I'm pretty much open to any idea. I would love to do. I mean, I think my end goal is to do like a barnuminium something someday. Like that's such a cool thing to be able to live in a shop that also has a house and then just work there. Goals for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so I can give you guys a little bit of an inside scoop. I found a old Model T factory that
Okay.
somebody is leasing out, and I might get that for my new shop.
That would be the coolest freaking thing ever.
Oh
Yeah.
my!
It's a like 200-year-old building. It's all brick.
Windows broken like they should be.
No, the windows are fixed, but that's the only unfortunate part. It's like this beautiful old brick building, and then it's got these like Menard windows with spray foam insulation around them.
Right. Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
it's a pretty cool building.
Wow.
Wow.
Dude, that's like, is it, the building must be fairly big then, right?
Yeah, so it's a 10,000 square foot building. I'm not renting the entire thing because
Fair.
I can't afford 10,000 square feet. But the price per square foot that the landlord's asking is about half of what all the other places are around here.
So let's talk about that for a second. What are the holdups? You're looking at this building. What are the holdups? There's clearly some.
So, for one, this building in specific is an hour away. So, it's a little bit farther than I wanted to drive. For two, it's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's in a town of like 1,000 people, and the closest town to it's like 30 minutes away, which isn't a huge deal, but I can foresee a few issues, trying to get supplies or stuff in that situation. Now, I wanted to kind of start having everything I need in stock at my shop, so
Yeah.
having a bunch of metal, a bunch of fittings, a bunch of wheels and tires, everything I need to pretty much do any build without having to go to the store every day. So this would force me to do that, and I think I'd be more efficient because of it. But also, part of the reason why I like having a shop is to have my friends come to the shop and build their cars there, and have people visit. And when it's an hour away in the middle of nowhere, that's not going to happen too often. So I'll be a little lonely there. But
Yeah.
it is what it is, and it's a pretty cool building. Um, my last shop was obviously a very basic building. It was just a steel building. Little warehouse. And I've always wanted something that is a little bit more photogenic and has a little bit more of a story. And so converting an old Model T factory into my shop is like the perfect scenario for that.
I think. Good.
Sorry.
Yo,
I
you
was
go.
just gonna say, would you move closer to the shop in the interest of having less of a commute? Like it
Yes,
sounds.
yeah. I
I was
only
gonna
have
say, this sounds great.
At this point, I only have 6 months left of my house lease because we've been looking for a shop so long. So yeah, the hour commute would only really be for 6 months. I mean, that's totally not that big of a deal.
Okay.
I mean, the good news is probably, would you have to go through Atlanta to get to that area or no?
No. So the nice thing is it's
That's
all back roads, curvy roads going to the shop. So,
right.
you know, at the specific time of day when no one's out driving, I could probably cut that drive down by a few minutes by maybe driving slightly faster than the speed limit.
Right. Right. Just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit.
But I think, man, how symbiotic would it be to move to an old Model T building, the car that made cars in America? Well, made cars, almost period.
Yeah.
The cars that, kind of led to the innovation of vehicles getting built in a more modernized way with the assembly line.
Mhm.
Oh wow.
To go there and almost have that, like, where cars really started and got their heart, to your channel kind of take. I mean, I just think it's
That's
what a
so
cool look.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the only other concerns is that it is a 200-year-old building, and it floods, and the roof is not totally sealed, and in the winter it's going to be cold, in the summer it's going to be hot. But those are all things that can be worked around. The landlord is trying to find some tenants, and if he can, then he's gonna put a new roof on the building and do some other improvements. So
Yeah, because
there's
I mean,
that.
I would say that as a landlord, if you want to rent a building out, having a roof that doesn't leak is pretty
Pretty
up
important.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty up there. But I mean, like, I will say, I've had a shop or two, and you'd be surprised how much a little insulation can go, and you can kind of take care of some of that stuff. And as far as the flooding goes, I mean, once the roof is on, um, a little, not that this isn't work, but not work for you. You do this stuff all the time. Like a little bit of cement. Well, no, cement and some, what they call it, self-leveling cement that you can direct a little bit, and just punch a hole in the concrete and drop one of those sump pumps in, so that you never really get any major water. It will keep your ish from not floating away slash rusting slash turning into an aquarium.
Yeah, and I mean, I looked at the building last week when it had been raining for 4 days straight,
Yeah.
and there was some standing water in the building, but it really wasn't that bad.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard though, because, like, that, like, when you have your own place, you're gonna have 5, 6 builds, whatever, in different various stages. Some will be on jack stands, maybe you'll have one in the lift, whatever, and you're gonna have that point where you want to get under the car, just climb on the ground, and to know that you have to wait for the water to dry before you do it, at some point probably will get annoying.
Or you could just
Yeah.
swim there.
What?
I said, or you could just swim there.
Yeah, I guess, but
I'm wondering, like, maybe it's a situation where he turns that building into like an Adam LZ compound type thing. Like,
I mean,
Wooly and all them to move, down there as well. Make it a whole.
Woolie's not gonna move down
I'm
there.
just saying.
He's in his, Woolie's in his.
That is actually exactly what I'm trying to do right now.
Listen, it's a great idea, except Woolie's got. Listen, this is what it's gonna sound like. I don't know, man. Like I'm gonna like we have like a lot of stuff here, and like I got my stuff here, and like I mean he like lives. He like works out of his house. He's got a really nice house because his wife's like, head real estate thing, and he's suburban now. He's a super, suburban house dad. That's what he does.
Best impersonation of Wooly I've heard in a while.
Yeah.
For a guy that has no hair, mind you.
Yeah. So yeah, if I had dreads, man, spot on, right? I think, but I do think, like, guys like Hunter, I think you getting Hunter to move some of his stuff that he's working on toward that area would be a good thing for him, because
yeah, definitely.
I think the two of you really, because you're friendly, and the fact that you can vibe off of each other, and that's important when you're doing builds and you're trying to do different things.
Definitely. Yep.
So that's the plan. So when do you think, hypothetically, for people that are watching this that are your fans, because most of them probably will be, when do you think, if this was going to happen, when do you think they would hear of news whether this happened or not on your channel?
So I'm not going to talk about it on my channel until I've moved into the building and actually have it, because I don't want to get people's hopes up, or my own hopes up, honestly. The landlord, like I said, if he can find tenants, then he's got to do all these remodeling things. And he said that the building would be ready to move in, hopefully at the beginning of December.
Okay.
So
that's pretty cool.
That's
pretty cool.
Month and a half, 2 months.
Before we close out, if there is one project, now I'm going to leave it up to you. It doesn't have to be necessarily for your channel, but it can be. If there's one project that you could get, money is no object. It also doesn't have to be expensive, that you could build. Is there any really goal-oriented project that you would say, that's what I would get?
I mean, off the top of my head, I don't have anything too specific, because most of the ideas I think of are kind of things that I want to do for the channel. So they're relatively affordable, those kind of things. But the one thing that I've always wanted to do after building the bus is to build a full-size bus, but, take it totally to the next level and do I don't even know the names of these things, but a semi truck motor with a manual, the 13 speed, totally deck out the inside, bunch of solar panels, make it this luxury home on wheels that I can take to events and stuff.
Listen, that
no
is
expense spared.
Absolutely sick. Can I make one suggestion, because I want to vicariously live through you, and I know I will never do this, but I wanted to do this for the longest time?
Sure.
Buy for dirt, because they all sell them. Buy a used fire truck.
Interesting.
And you get, first off, you have a really good set. The bed is hard. I mean, they're heavy, so whatever. But the bed, even if you're not going to use it or you can't sell it, you can get scrap metal price, because it's a heavy piece, right? It already comes with a 250-gallon water tank. It already has a lot of different things and components that when you strip the bed down, you're going to come up with a lot of cool things that you'll be able to repurpose and use.
Right.
Additionally, if you then make your own back half or something like that to be able to convert that into the sleeping quarters, being able to cut through the back cab into that area and sheet metal around it to try to bring it in would allow you to have some actual seating that's there that's actually pretty comfy, because those guys that use the Scott packs and stuff, they give them really good room to fit 6 firefighters in that back cab.
I like them there.
And they all come with Allison transmissions usually, and really incredible diesel engines, and they're usually maintained really well and have low hours on them, even though they're old. Like an 1988 fire truck, it's probably been driven 500 hours or whatever, but they've had it for whatever. And these departments, they have these budgets. They have to constantly use their budget. So they have a 20-year rule, at least up here, 20 years, and then they have to replace equipment. So what you're finding is, now we're 221, so now you're going to be able to get 2001 fire trucks that are going to go for $5,000 at auction, because the department is they don't need it anymore. They're not looking to make a profit. They're looking to get rid of it.
Right.
And it comes with a lot of crazy stuff in it. And lights and what? No, because I wanted to do this for the long. My dad's a volunteer firefighter here, and every time they get to a point where they're getting ready to get
buy one.
If I could, and so one of the firefighters at his place, a young guy, bought one with the idea of fixing this thing up. Now I don't think he'll ever be able to do the type of stuff I'm talking about. I think he's gonna make it shiny again and then drive around his fire truck. But
Right.
it just, to me, it's so cool. Anyhow, that's all I got for you.
I like that idea. Yeah, it's a little more unique than a bus too.
Yeah. So like, if you end up getting one, I'll come down and help you work on it once in a while.
Okay.
It's pretty rad. So yeah, man. Listen, I appreciate you doing this because
definitely, it was a good time.
Such short notice.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're good at.
Right.
Yeah. We're good at short notice.
Right. Well,
So-
I gave you guys a short notice too, so.
No. Listen, here's the thing. We'll take your short notice because that means we're actually getting something done. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So I appreciate it, and I think that I'm super excited to see where your channel goes. I'm really happy that when you made a move, you went down to that S3 guys area because they're a good bunch of guys that have been doing this for a long time that are really passionate and care about cars. Yeah. And listen, they come with resources. You just got to beat Wooly up and and make him comb his hair or something.
That's so funny.
Yeah. What?
Can you comb dreads?
No, but you could take the dreads out and get a regular haircut like he used to have.
That's never gonna happen.
Listen, I think Wooly is going to be 93 years old, and he's going to have dreads and board shorts.
Yeah, and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah. And he's going to be driving around in some modern-day Jeep, flying around with the doors off.
True.
Yeah. So thanks, man. I appreciate it, and I think we're all excited to see kind of where you end up and how the channel goes.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
And if you need any DSM advice, listen, I am here. We'll talk you through it. Don't take Wooly's advice because between him and Mike, they have successfully not finished a bunch of DSMs.
Yeah, I did hear that they were DSM guys. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to some extent, I think Wooly might even still have his GSX that's painted some wild color that's ridiculous in a basement somewhere.
Maybe. I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, anyhow, thanks, Caleb. I appreciate it, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys.
Cool. Well, now that my ear things are percolating, man, that was good.
Oh yeah.
That was really good. So I'm super happy about that. Listen, for everybody out there, we'll have Gingium's information in our description. I don't think anybody is going to need it, but it's there because that's what we do. Right. But we've had a relationship with him for more than a few years now, and he's just a good guy, right? Like, and I think that that's such a cool piece to this. Finding real car people to do real car things.
100%.
Is just a big piece. So that's it. Don't forget we go live on Instagram and Facebook, 2 p.m. Eastern, right before the podcast every Wednesday. Don't forget we put up a piece of content every Friday. It's not as good as Gingium's content, but it's content nonetheless. So make sure you subscribe if you don't mind, and that's it. We'll catch you on the next one. Take care.